Next week marks 30 years since the 1995 Quebec referendum on sovereignty. PQ leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon has been promising a third referendum if his party wins a majority government in the next provincial election. But yet another poll suggests the majority of Quebecers just don't want one. Joining us now is political analyst Raphael Melancon. Good to see you, Raphael. And let's get right into it. This Léger poll taken for the Journal de Montréal, it suggests that 65% of Quebecers would vote against independence, and yet the PQ has been consistently way ahead in the polls. So, I mean, it seems contradictory. How do we make sense of all this?
Very good question, Maya. Even I sometimes, as a political analyst, I'm asking myself, what do Quebecers do really want? Because if you look at it, on one side, you have a majority of Quebecers who are clearly not interested in having a referendum. It's not just about voting yes or no in an eventual third referendum on sovereignty. It's also about, do you want to have a referendum on sovereignty? That's what the poll shows here. And it shows that clearly there's a certain proportion of people who are voting for the PQ, who would be voting for the PQ if there were an election held tomorrow, that don't want a referendum. So to me, it makes absolutely no sense. What's happening in the minds of voters here? Do they know what they're voting for? Because clearly they would be electing a majority government of a PQ that's promising to hold a referendum in its first term. So there's a clear contradiction here in voter intentions versus their opinion on sovereignty. And here you see some images from back in 1995, 30 years ago already. So we're going to be celebrating that anniversary in just 2 days on Thursday here. And clearly Quebecers don't want yet to see that happen again. And to me, that's an indicator, clear indicator here, that the problem is with the alternatives, because if Quebecers don't want a referendum, usually they would be turning to the Liberal Party, which usually acts as a refuge for many voters who do not want to hear about sovereignty. But right now, we don't see any momentum, really clear momentum for the Liberal Party since the arrival of Pablo Rodriguez as the new leader of the Liberal Party. So it shows maybe that on the Liberal side, they should be focusing, they should be reviewing their strategy, because they're not picking up in the polls so far, and the PQ is still leading despite the fact that Quebecers clearly do not want to hear about sovereignty at all.
Just a quick note, Raphael, I think you're jumping ahead in time. It's next Thursday that the anniversary will be, the 30th. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
I'm already ready to celebrate that historic day, Maya. Here.
All right. So, yeah, next Thursday, October 30th, will be the 30th anniversary of that referendum. Now, turning to Ottawa, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, he made some controversial comments in a podcast, and that prompted a prominent Conservative to speak out, not an elected MP, but Stephen Harper's former communications director, Dimitri Soudas. And he's not the only one expressing concerns about Poilievre's leadership style and what impact that may be having on the party.
Yes, and I myself, as a former Harper Conservative, I've worked for this party too during the same years as Dimitri Soudas, you've mentioned, who came out strongly against his party in this op-ed published a few days ago in the Toronto Star. And I myself don't see my party anymore as it was under the Harper era, or even before that, to the older Conservatives who worked under Brian Mulroney, for instance. This is no longer the same Conservative party. And Pierre Poilievre has brought many, the tone and the strategies from the U.S. side. When you hear Poilievre talking about we should put Justin Trudeau in jail for some of the things he has done, it's similar to what we've heard from the MAGA movement when they were saying lock her up, talking about Hillary Clinton, putting your political opponents in jail. That's the kind of things we don't hear usually in Canadian politics, and that shouldn't be happening here. And what we see here is that Pierre Poilievre, who's basically stuck, he's doubling down right now on a strategy that clearly did not work in the last general election, whereas he should maybe trying to ask questions and review his strategy. And right now we see also a Pierre Poilievre that seems to be stuck between the far right on one side and a Liberal Party that under Mark Carney is governing basically like a progressive Conservative government. So it's a very hard place to be for Pierre Poilievre, and we'll have to wait and see. But right now, this strategy clearly doesn't work, and it's alienating part of its base.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. We're out of time, Raphael, but we appreciate your insights as always, and we'll speak to you again very soon.
Always a pleasure, Maya. See you next time.